I think most travelers in Africa find the children unforgettable. After the flight attendants, they're often the first ones to really greet you. In certain areas like Dogon country in Mali, the children are chronic beggars. Beggars is not really an accurate term because there's no self-degradation in their behavior. They're unapologetic and creative in their demands, asking for bonbons, Bics, my bottle, my shirt. At times it became truly aggravating, but I reminded myself that in tourist destinations like this, asking for things had become part of the culture. Besides, there was something beautiful about it. I felt that at the heart of it was a desire to engage with us. I felt that their demands were mutable. Attention could easily stand in for money, so I usually played dumb when they begged, and tried to think of what things of value I could give them besides material. The way kids are carried by their mothers reflects a difference between childhood in the African sense and in the American or European. Everywhere we traveled, we saw kids slung on their mothers' backs, so the latter could keep attending to their business. Babies were cared for, but never coddled. To see babies asleep while their heads hung at sharp angles left me with the impression that infancy is the start of resilience training. And at the risk not only of generalizing, as I always do, but also of alienating my younger audience, kids in Africa have respect for their elders. Take these scenes from along the Niger River in Mali. I can't even think of something comparable in the world in which I grew up. We visited several schools in Ghana. If Africa is backwards, as Orientalists viewed it, then the Western world should dream of being so backwards. Kids in Africa are more like small adults than their Western counterparts. In places where school is a recent introduction, and many still cannot afford to waste half a day on abstractions, kids are busy working, almost from the day they can walk. Zusera, Yosee. Furthermore, I saw children caring for each other as often as I saw parents doing it. This self-reliance might be a natural outcome of high mortality rates. I hardly recall meeting one person my age, both of whose parents were still alive. I imagine, therefore, that parents are an asset that's not taken for granted. Kids in Africa form bands, the likes of which don't exist in places where the nuclear family is paramount. It's a beautiful aspect of childhoods in which undivided parental attention is a luxury. It was also an advantage for us as travelers. Where the children were less supervised, they were usually free to follow their fancy, which, if we were around, was us. We had them teach us their language. Mother, how do you say mother?
Nut.
A nut? A nut and abat, okay. We did silly things to defy their expectations.
Come with me.
To have a camera is a gift in these situations, because not only could we give them a kind of attention they weren't used to, by flipping the LCD screen, I could let them see themselves, probably for the first time, on a screen. Yosee, with his still camera, let them star in their own professional photo shoots. Sometimes he spent an hour or two like this, and the energy was incredible. I can only imagine their excitement was the same as that which got me hooked on making home movies when I was their age. I want to relate a story here because, though it causes me shame, I believe it's relevant to our topic. In Ghana, Yosee and I stayed one day at a charming resort between a river and the sea, by the name of Maranatha. Proceeds from the resort supported a school for the children of the fishing village next door. Vis-a-vis what I said about schools earlier, many of the potential students could be seen roaming nude with their friends, fishing during the day.
Nice catch. Bye, God bless you.
But a bunch of those in school uniforms hung around our spot on the beach after their classes. Yosee was taken with the poise of one of the girls in front of the camera, and tried to yank me from my journal with the suggestion that we direct a film with these kids. I agreed it was a good use of our time, and the children jumped on the idea. I tried to goad a concept for our film out of them, but they turned shy on me. I suggested an idea that was most relevant to my experience, even with these students of Maranatha.
Action!
Yosee, a mysterious stranger, walks out of the sea one day to be met by a flock of curious children. They treat him to the same request made of us by children in all of these kinds of places: money. He has none to offer them, but wants to give them something else. So he starts up a session of azonto, the dance craze that we encountered across Ghana. A wild dance session ensues, and a vivacious, joyful encounter takes the place of one more typical of tourist experiences. Yosee was reluctant because of the begging bit, but agreed to let me direct. The kids were a more than willing cast. However, just as we finished a successful take of the solicitation scene, I heard an adult voice ask accusingly,
What's the meaning of what you are doing?
"What is the meaning of what you are doing? Who is it for?" I assumed he could just as easily be asking out of curiosity, and naively answered that it was just a movie for fun, or art. But he quickly made clear that I was putting words in these children's mouths, false words, and basically committing an injustice. He had me turn off the camera and sent the kids away. At first I felt indignant, but with time dealt more maturely with my humiliation.
Okay.
He had a point,
Action!
and that is that I was using innocent children to express my own experience, potentially influencing the views of an audience with that experience. On the other hand, the kids' performances were endowed with a profound truthfulness that I think were a threat to this adult. They lacked the kind of self-consciousness and concern with reputation that would prevent them from collaborating in my little satire. I think it's for the same reason kids in this kindergarten felt natural openly calling us Obruni Father, playfully referencing a history of white condescension. Kids absorb the messages transmitted by grown-up society, but without the self-censorship when relaying it onward. Local kids and adult travelers have several things in common: vulnerability, a flexible schedule, and an intense curiosity.
Hi.
When I had to wait a long time for something and was faced with the prospect of boredom,
Comment tu t'appelles? Ah, enchanté. Je suis Lola.
the kids nearby were always invaluable. With them, I could make instant connections, free from suspicion, judgment, or danger. With them, I could pursue a most human desire for closeness.
Shalom. Ciao.